It's Carrie here. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm here today to talk to you about iced tea. It's a really hot day, so it's a perfect time to be talking about iced tea. And I am a huge tea lover in general. I drink tea every day for many reasons, and I like making my own iced tea. For one, it's really simple, just so you know, and I'm going to be sharing some recipes with you. I will have the recipes written out for you and a few different kinds of recipes. But here today, I just kind of want to give you a little talk about why I make my own iced tea and a little bit of information about that. And so for myself, the number one reasons why I make iced tea is I want to control the amount of sugar, I want to control the type of sweetener that is used, and I want to ensure that it has natural ingredients. So those are my top 3 reasons for making my own iced tea. So you can use any kind of tea to make iced tea. And I have found that some, taste better iced than others. I'm going to share with you a few of my favorites. So my ultimate favorite is this green tea. So it's a green and white tea with pear in it. And it's I'm in Waterloo region. I'm not sure if you are as well, but I purchased this from Distinctly Tea, which is uptown Waterloo. You can order online as well. And I will also, in the notes, give you some resources to use, whether buying teas and other products and things. So there will be some resources as well along with the recipes, okay? So this pear cream supreme tea has been a favorite of mine for many years, and I like it hot and cold. So making it as a cold iced tea is delicious, and sometimes I will add some fruits in it as well, and like let some frozen mango sit in with it as it's continuing to steep in the fridge. There's all sorts of things that you can do, but that's a favorite. If you want a black tea, this is another favorite. Again, you can use just any regular black tea, like an English breakfast is what I prefer. An English breakfast or an Irish breakfast. But this one is a little more fun for an iced tea, so it's called Buckingham Palace. And I wish I could share this with you to smell, because these smell absolutely amazing. And then my favorite is a fruity tea, so very berry. And a nice thing about I can smell it already. Another nice thing about the fruit teas is these are really popular for children. And speaking of children, another favorite for kids from Sipology. Sipology is a network marketing company, if I'm terming it correctly. And again, if you're in the Waterloo region, I have an amazing resource of a Sipology tea rep that I'd be happy to connect you with, and she's so informative. I've learned so much from her. She actually used to work at Distinctly Tea, and she's with Sipology, and she's a great resource, so I can pass her information on as well. So anyways, back to this tea. The Unicorn Kisses is really great for children. So myself personally, I don't really like it because it's way too sweet for me, and there's no added sweetener within it, and I definitely don't add any of my own sweetening to it because I find it would be far too sweet if I did. So on its own, it's really sweet. So my niece, I like to make it for her. She's 5 and she loves it. So when you're making your tea, and I will have in the instructions a couple of different ways that you can make it, but some things to keep in mind are not to overbrew it when you're making an iced tea. And the reason for that is with iced tea, it can get because you'll notice the bitterness of it more with an iced tea. So you do want to be really careful not to overbrew it. So my suggestion is to, like, whatever is on the package, they'll give the recommended brewing time and amounts, and I would follow those, especially starting out. And the thing is, this will be with any recipe that I share, play, because all of our taste buds are different, and maybe our needs are different, what we like is different. So play around, take my recipes and make them your own, because that's where mine have come from. I've taken them from other sources and then I've made them my own. Now with the fruit teas, I do find that you can steep those for a very long time. And another thing that I like to do with the fruit teas is I'll let the tea actually sit in the water, sometimes overnight, and I will add fresh or frozen fruit into the tea, in with the tea, okay? So that you're getting a different kind of a flavor when you're adding some of the natural fruit. So as far as the natural sweeteners that I like to use, so I got rid of sugar from my home many years ago. And especially once I became a nutritionist and learned more about the evils of white sugar, which I'm sure I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. You know that sugar isn't good for you. White refined sugar is not natural and it's not good for our bodies, and we are consuming far too much of it. And it's leading to many health issues. And I can get into all of that more on other topics. But for talking iced teas, my favorite go-to is honey. Just a nice, natural, local honey. And I will share with you, actually, next month, what I'm going to be sharing is taking any baking recipe and making it healthier. So I'm going to dive in a lot more about sugars, and the different, just as like I'm sharing with you today on favorite sweeteners for iced tea, I'm going to talk about that even more detail next month when I give you some tips and tricks about healthifying your current baking recipes. So that's coming next month. So I'm going to introduce you to some things here about sweeteners, but I will dive into it a little bit more next month. So a little teaser there for you. So again, my favorite is honey. And the thing to keep in mind with honey, it is double the sweetness of sugar. So you need half the amount. Now, depending on where you're coming from as far as your palate, because I have adjusted my palate to, I don't like really sweet anymore. And because I've adjusted what that is from, detoxing and eating a healthier diet. I no longer crave that sugariness anymore. So for me, like, in what I like and how I make a tea might be different from where you're coming from, depending on where you are in your palate. So for me, and I will kind of say within my recipes, this will kind of be on an average. Likely for me, I'm using probably even half that amount. Like I use very little, if even at all. Sometimes when I'm doing an iced tea, I don't add any sweetener. Like for my fruit teas, I don't add any sweetening to it, and that's just me personally. And even with the pear cream supreme, I find it to be sweet enough that I don't really add much sweetener. To a black tea, I tend to, because it tends to be more bitter. And green teas and things can tend to be more bitter. So I do add just a little bit of sweetness. Now, if I'm making my iced tea to share with other people, I do add a little more of the sweetener. Okay, so back to this. I kind of fly all over the place sometimes. So honey, a favorite, local honey, maple syrup, another local maple syrup. I'm here in New Dundee, so this company is just down the road, and I buy direct from them, so I like that I'm supporting local, better for the environment, and yeah, it's better for my body as well. And again, I will get into that more in details as we go along on our journey together. So this one is an amber. Now, I find personally that between the honey and the syrup that I need even less sweetening with the syrup. And it does depend on what kind. So with the amber, it gives it a very different flavor than if you were using a light or a medium. So again, you're going to play around with that and determine what does your palate like. And you may not even like maple syrup in it, you know, because it gives a very different kind of distinctive flavor. But I like giving you options of things that you can play around with and try. And these are very healthy options. And you know, using maple syrup and using honey is good for your body in the right amounts. Now, if you don't want to play around with honey or syrup, another option is sugar, however, not the white refined sugar. So here is an option. Organic cane sugar. So the cane sugar is a great option as well. It is a natural product. Again, I still like to reiterate, be really cautious with the amount that you're using though. So I would start off, you know, on the lower scale to see is that enough, and then, you know, if it's not enough, maybe add a little bit more next time. Now, the other important thing about when you're making iced tea and adding the sweetening is you want to add the sweetening when the water is hot. So you've put together you've boiled your water, you've got your tea, you've put the two together, and it's now steeping. So you let it steep. You know, once that's done, then you add the sweetening. You want to make sure that you add the sweetening when the water is still warm. If you add the sweetening when it's cool, it won't dissolve, and it's not going to be as nice. It's going to kind of settle to the bottom and sit there, and then you're not going to enjoy it. So make sure you add your sweetening when the water is still warm. So another great reason why I like iced tea in these hot months is you can get electrolytes from the tea. And especially ones like green tea is a great electrolyte. The fruit tea that I shared, the very berry, has hibiscus in it, and hibiscus is a great electrolyte. And also honey. Honey's a great electrolyte as well. So making a couple of these teas, recipes that I'm sharing with you, are really great on a hot day or after you've done some exercise. Also great for the kids to cool them down and give them a natural electrolyte. And so it's going to be very beneficial and healthy for your body during these hot days. Another thing that I like to do for children, again, I had mentioned the fruit teas, so that Unicorn Kisses, especially great for children, or you know, the very berry, or again, whatever your choice may be of some fruity type of tea, is you can make some little popsicles. And I make these for my 5-year-old niece, and she loves them. So I had purchased this, I think I just got this at the dollar store or something like that. So, you know, you can find something to be creative, or you can make ice cubes with your fruit tea, and you could add those just to water or to your other teas to give it different flavors. You can really play around with that. But the popsicles or the ice cubes make a really nice snack for children. And these popsicles, once they're done, my niece, it keeps her busy for a while. And I haven't added any sugar to it. I steep it for quite a long time, overnight. I steep it overnight to make it really fruity and juicy. I don't add any additional sugar, and she loves it, because I was kind of testing it out, like, I wonder, will she like it if I don't add any sugar, because she has a very sweet tooth. And she didn't complain, and she asked for more. So that pleases me. So I wanted to share with you another quick way to make iced tea in addition to the recipes that I'm sharing with you. So say you didn't have a chance to brew them ahead of time, cool them, you know, and that it's in the fridge ready for you. Hot day, you just came in from gardening, you want to cool your body down, you want to get some electrolytes. Oh, and another thing about some of these teas that I love, like the green tea that I'm doing now, is antioxidants, which is also really great when you are hot or have done some exercise, some antioxidants, okay? So tea's really great for that too. So you've come in, you're hot, you want an iced tea, and here's a quick way to get to that iced tea. So I've made my tea just as I would always do. So I brewed my water, boiled my water, and I steeped it, and I am doing that green pear cream supreme, my favorite. And I've steeped it the amount of time recommended on the package, so it's all steeped. I added my sweetener of choice, which is honey, and in here is about 3 cups of water. So for that amount, I added barely a tablespoon. It's a little under a tablespoon of honey of what I added. That's a very minimal amount, so that may not be enough for you, but that's plenty for me as a little treat, and to get the health benefits of the honey. So I've got that all steeped and ready, and it's still warm. Yep, it's still warm. Oh, and when you're doing a green tea, you don't boil the water. If you have a tea, like a certain tea kettle, and it will say green tea setting on it, and then you can boil it, sorry, not boil it, you can heat the water up to that temperature. It's not quite a boil, because green tea is very sensitive. And I'll make sure that I put that in the notes for you as well, if you're a fan of green teas. Okay, so I've got my steeped tea, back to my iced tea, got my steeped tea, and I have a glass full of ice, just full of ice, okay? So here is my warm tea, my ice, voila. I'm just gonna pour that in there. Okay, I'm also gonna add a little bit of lemon. Nice. Just for some flavoring. Stir that up. And now I've got a nice tea. Oh, it's so good. And isn't that amazing that it cool? Now you'll notice where that water went. And so that also took away some of the bitterness, because I steep it just, a little bit longer, so that it got a little bit more bitter, because I knew I was adding all of that ice that is going to take away some of that bitterness. So that's another little tip as well. But again, everybody likes their tea different. Some people like it bitter. I do like my tea very bitter, so I tend to steep it longer. If you don't like any bitterness, then you'll want to steep it a little less. And again, that ice, that water helps to tone down that bitterness, and of course tone down any sweetness. So cheers.